Hello, Soul Crew. Great to see you in another moment of the now. And today I share with you, uh, let's call it a blueprint. It's a bit of a just like the hero's journey. This is a journey or a blueprint for deep emotional cleaning in order to bring forth deep transformation. So, how does this look like? I'm going to break it down to you. Emotions, right? Energies in motion, information. And sometimes we just tend to avoid them because they seem uncomfortable or we've been predisposed to just avoid them. And then the mind kicks in and tries to soothe us with this philosophical processes, maybe where we kind of distance ourselves from our emotions and we feel that we're doing better. But at the end, we just end up repressing and repressing and repressing. And this is what I call deep house cleaning. It's like something is dirty, but it's not that dirty. And you put it in that drawer, and then with time, that drawer is just unbearable and it piled up and it becomes almost like unmanageable. And right now, what I want to bring in is that awareness so that you can do maintenance and keep your transformation much more smoothly. Sometimes it bulks up, sometimes it adds up, life happens. But just to create this blueprint, the idea is to create this awareness on how to keep up with yourself emotionally fit, if you may. Uh, it also impacts us psychosomatically because sometimes, well, not sometimes, if you hide your issues, they go into your tissues. And if I keep repressing my emotions and holding back and just distracting myself, then I get chronic, mysterious illnesses. And a lot of the times it's just emotional deficiencies because the body keeps creating these biochemical processes called emotions, feelings, and they're just not fully processed. They're not fully completed, right? So I generate an emotional process and then I just suppress instead of going through the whole process. And unprocessed emotions go into the biological unconscious. They do go into our biology, but in a very unconscious way. And then it begins to impact not just our psyche, but our body, right? It's even like the body posture or how certain organs function. They begin to get more stressed or more strained. And then this chronic fatigue ends up creating again all of this more like physical conditions if we may, but so a lot of these have underlying emotional roots. So how to keep up with yourself and with cleansing, it's first and foremost the will to do it, because where there's a will, there's a way, and emotions want to be processed. Your body wants to heal, your body wants to kind of complete the whole transformation. So having that willingness is going to just open you up to seeing in which ways you can take responsibility for yourself. And here the first thing is like taking the charge of your fortune, not thinking that everything is at the stake of something outside of yourself, but that you actually have the power to navigate whatever you're going through. You have the power to be you. And this is a muscle. So you just need to begin to cultivate it small tasks at a time. It's not like right now you have to tackle everything in your life. It's more like the small tasks, and understand that you're accountable for your fortune. There's, of course, events that happen outside of our control. But once they happen, what are we doing about them? Are we just falling into the victim? Why me? Why this? Blah, blah, blah. And then just creating more despair, which then creates an urge for short-term gratification. So we distract ourselves. So we keep repressing them more and yada, yada. You see the cycle. That creates a downward fortune, wheel of fortune, if you may. It just depletes, 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 and it takes momentum. And the more we repress, they just to compensate that, it's going to take a proportional amount of effort. What do I mean by this? If I've been repressing my emotions for 10 years and you just want like a quick fix, we always are open for divine intervention and miracles, but otherwise it takes work. It takes self-awareness to change habits, right? So again, the first step for a deep emotional cleanse is self-awareness, is the willingness to be like, whether it's nice, ugly, or tough or uncomfortable, I'm going to work on building resilience, emotional resilience, to be there, to sit there, to observe, even if it hurts. And then the more you can observe, the more savvy you get, right? Like I say, this earth plane is like a game, and there's different levels and challenges, and sometimes we loop. Yet when we are constantly reactive, we're giving our power away. We're giving that energy, that information, that emotion away. And when I'm able to hold space for myself, I build up vibrational resilience because I'm being able to process that emotion within. That gives me a complete different perspective on the situation. And then instead of being on autopilot or reactive mode, I begin to respond. And even if something keeps happening outside of me, I begin to respond differently. And eventually you change the outcomes. It can be a one-time thing where you set a boundary and you put out consequences, or it's more like a bit of a tougher cycle to break. But eventually you get there by building emotional resilience and not just giving yourself away. And again, with repetition and practice, this takes you upon the true transformation because you become unconditional for yourself. And here, um, we go into authenticity, being unconditionally authentic to yourself. Sometimes, like I said, it's easier than others, and sometimes it can be uncomfortable, and sometimes we're just like, I'm done with this. But it really pays off. I can guarantee it really pays off to do emotional maintenance with yourself, and when things come up and when you're uncomfortable, to assess them in the moment, if it's safe or otherwise, as soon as you have a window to just sit in with that discomfort and process whether you like. And for this, there's so much content out there. Like, we're very fortunate, we live in an era where healing and self-awareness is normalized. It's almost like an industry of its own. So there's a lot of resources out there, and it's very personal. Some of us like to write, some of us like to meditate, some of us like to paint, contemplate. Like, just know that meditation can take any shape or form as long as it brings you back into a place of balance, right? Some people meditate when they're surfing, which looks like a very intense activity, or when they are climbing, or when they're just like sitting in silence, singing a mantra. So it just depends on your personality, on your make, and what vibrates with you, what resonates. So I invite you to also, if you don't already know, begin to explore what kind of activities bring you into a meditation state. I personally love to paint mandalas. They require a lot of patience, and sometimes I love it, and sometimes it drives me crazy. And I also work through that craziness, right? And you just commit and consistently stay there, whether you're feeling high or you're feeling low. So again, I leave that up to you. Journaling is also a great tool. Playing an instrument, singing, humming, walking, you get it. It's any sort of activity that you can do mindfully, that you can be present, that you can be proactive and active, not just like passively receiving or consuming. It's more like a state of create. So once you become aware of the emotions and you go into this state, you can process them more actively without running away or suppressing them. You become unconditional to yourself. You develop inner strength because you get stronger and more resilient the more you're willing to face your experiences. And then you stop fearing the outcome of circumstances that you're unable to control, because whether the past repeats itself or somebody does something that you wouldn't approve, you know you have the capacity to sit in with yourself, process yourself, and respond accordingly. And sometimes that response is a very firm boundary. Sometimes it can be, a more charged, firm conversation. Sometimes it's just like a gentle intervention. Like, there's no one rule. The point is that the more self-aware you are, the more assertive you can be in how to navigate situations and how to navigate relationships. This is coming through for some reason, and I think it's relevant because it's important to learn whether it's something or someone who deserves an explanation, who deserves more patience, and who deserves neither, right? Because it's not all black and white, and all situations and people are different. And some deserve an explanation, some deserve some patience, because they're getting there and they're showing that they're making the effort and we're committed. And some don't deserve either because they actually don't care. So again, the only way to assess that is by you being emotionally balanced, by you being centered, by you being capable to discern what's best for you. And to all of this comes emotional maturity, because with deep emotional cleansing, if you may, you get to be a substantial container for your emotions. So imagine that emotions are water and your body biologically is like a cup. And if your emotions are very high vibration and you have not developed a strong, sturdy container or a cup, you spill and you spill and you implode and you explode, right? And we have all sorts of emotional drama and mess. And then when you become more aware of your container, your body, and you begin to create more resilience, you can handle bigger emotions. You can handle bigger emotional moments in life. So you can contain more, and still, there's still the emotions happening, there's still the water flowing, yet you have a cup. So it's very different to just be like a cascade of endless drama and emotions flowing and spilling and projecting everywhere versus you creating a bigger and a bigger and a bigger container. Because remember, emotions are information. So the more that you can navigate that information, the better you can navigate yourself throughout life. Instead of being impulsive or explosive, you're able to be like, okay, these are big emotions. I can feel through them. Not a lot to rationalize. It's more like a very, like I said, creative process. It's not like you have to come up with a script to justify yourself. It's more like feeling through, being like, oh, wow, that hurts. There's not much more to it, right? Sometimes there is, and sometimes you have to do a deeper dive or an exploration. But most of the times it's just like, oh, wow, yeah, that what happened caused this emotion. I'm going to feel through it. And that's how you cleanse through. Like, it's like doing the dishes. Sometimes you don't have to figure out what each stain is, if you may, or like, oh, this is this or this is that. It's more like the dishes are there, just clean them, just pass them through. You get into this meditation state and you just do the cleansing. That's one angle on how you can do deep emotional cleanse. And remember, your North Star is the transformation that comes along. Transformation is that whenever something of the sort happens again, you'll be like, okay, yeah, that happened. I've worked out that muscle, so I can gain clarity out of the situation instead of feeling like life is happening to me versus life is happening for me. I see how that betrayal now gives me an opportunity to level up my relationships or to practice more self-respect or to improve my boundaries. Right? Everything begins to happen for you. And there's another transmission out there, in case you haven't seen it, but it's like the higher moral ground of why is this happening for me versus why is this happening for you. Where's the lesson? What can you make out of this? And sometimes it's like, oh, there was a loss or there was something brutal. It's like, how could I learn from this? Well, at the best, you can learn something about yourself in that situation. What can you learn about yourself in that situation that you didn't expect? How you responded, how you processed it. Maybe you didn't expect it to hit you that much, or it didn't hit you as much as you thought it would have, right? Like, there's always something to learn if you want to. This is all voluntary, like I share. These are just perspectives. This is for entertainment purposes. Yet, if you're in for the fulfillment and the satisfaction of being yourself, and it's a process, but enjoying and pursuing the evolution of your soul, then this is for you. And I pray that this resonates, that there were some nuggets there, some food for thought, and keep up with an amazing work. Thank you for being part of the crew. Feel free to start a conversation and share if this relates or if there's any advice you would like to share with others, if this triggered any ideas or anything that, again, you would like to put out there, always welcomed. And as for me, I will see you in another moment of the now.